I'd like to welcome everybody to the second session of the NAACP 2012 Forum. I'm Michael Deming. I'm serving as interim chair for the Political Action Committee. Before my leader, Mr. Eugene Stenberg, who is behind the desk out there. Hopefully he'll take this vote from you soon. Anyway, we have now a nice large group of state rep candidates. We have 3 moderators, and I'll let the moderators introduce themselves. When I hand off the mic, I'd like to advise you, though, we are a nonpartisan organization. We ask questions for informational purposes only. We make no endorsements. We are the NAACP. Thank you.
I'll go ahead and review the format we're going to be following while Jerry finishes taking his pictures of the candidates. We're going to give each candidate an opportunity to do a 1-minute opening statement where they will give their name, the position they are seeking, and as much of a resume as you can fit into the rest of your 1 minute. Questions will be asked by the moderators. We have a list of questions prepared by the Political Action Committee of the NAACP, and we will ask those questions interspersed with questions from the audience. We have 2 lovely runners, one on that side and one on this side, who have index cards and pens. So if you would like to ask a candidate a question, raise your hand and they will bring you a card and a pen, and then they will come and pick your card up and bring it to the moderators. Each candidate will have an opportunity to spend 2 minutes answering each question, and then at the end of the forum, they will have 1 minute to wrap up and give a closing statement. I'd like to introduce all 3 moderators again, so we'll start with you.
My name is Ron Finley. I'm a former president of the branch, and just very happy to be here working with the forum. We're going to move right along with the number of candidates and try to get everyone an opportunity. Thank you all for being here.
I'm Joyce Anderson Downing. I'm also a member of the NAACP Political Action Committee, and I appreciate your being here this evening. There are some cards and some of your seats that say Vote for Economic Dignity. This is one of the informational campaigns that the NAACP is involved in, along with voter registration. So we very much appreciate your participation. If you would fill out a card, that would be great.
Hello, I'm Arlita Dupree. I am a member of the NAACP Political Action Committee as well. And thank you all for being here. And I believe we have a very great group. And I think they're ready to get started.
So Brandon Ellington is in District 22, so numerically you go first for the introductions. And then if you pass the mic down to him, then we'll pass the mic down the road.
So I'd like to say all praise and honor to God. My name is Brandon Ellington. I currently represent the 41st District, which is Lawrenceburg in the city of Lawrenceburg, the 3rd District. I'm seeking re-election in the 22nd District, which overlaps between the 41st and the 42nd District. And we have to elect people that are going to fight for us. Not people who are just going to talk about fighting for us and give us aesthetics and fakeness. We have to have people that's actually going to put in work. And the way you can tell the candidates up here, if they put in work, is by their life experiences. If they have a history of doing community activity, then they're probably going to do community activity when they're in office. If they don't have a history of doing anything, me, myself included, then this is a person that we should not elect. In our area over here, East of Truth, we've been underfunded and we've been underrepresented at the state level, in my opinion, at the city level. So it's on the citizens to make sure we have people that are going to fight and inform us. But then it's on us as citizens to make sure we show up. When I look around the room, it's actually sad. Most of the people in here I know, this place is packed.
Good evening, my name is Eric Stafford. I'm a candidate for Missouri House of Representatives, 23rd District. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a connection between literacy incarceration, and murder on the streets. We are in a state of emergency right now. Throughout my life, I've been uniquely and intricately involved with impacting the lives of people on an everyday basis. I was a teacher at Genesis School for 3 years. I taught social studies there, which was a school for at-risk youth. It's now known as Promise Academy. I worked at the Full Employment Council as a welfare to work case manager. I'm also a small business owner. Here recently, I wrote a proposal and it was funded by the Black Community Fund and the Institute of Human Development to teach history at a local level. So I appreciate your time here and I appreciate your vote on the 7th. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Randy Dunn. I'm a candidate for state representative for the 23rd District. It is a pleasure to be here this evening. I'm a lifelong resident of Kansas City, Missouri, graduate of Raytown South High School. I received my bachelor's degree in urban affairs with an emphasis in urban planning and minor in sociology from the University of Missouri, Kansas City on a full academic scholarship. I received my master's degree also from UMKC in public administration. For the past 5 years, I've had the privilege of serving you as your 3rd District City Planner for the City of Kansas City, Missouri. I, too, am a small business owner of Dean & Dunn, LLC, a company where we provide services to nonprofits and faith-based organizations providing services throughout the community. I'm also a licensed realtor. I've been involved in the community throughout my entire life. I actually live in the 23rd District, and I look forward to representing you in Jefferson City.
My name is Deron Black. I'm a candidate for the 23rd District. I've also lived in the district all of my life. The only time that I was out of the district was when I was in the military. And I had the opportunity to live coast to coast and to observe a lot of things. And one of the things that I can say about myself and my connection to the district is that I'm not one of the people or one of the individuals who was very successful in his life growing up in that district. The school system failed me. The criminal justice system didn't do anything for me. And it was actually my religion that actually got me together and my head on straight. So one of the things that I would say about myself is that I've shed blood in that district. I've had men and women, close friends of mine and family members die in that district. And like I said, I was in the school system, and guess what? That school system didn't do anything for me. So my connection to that district is real, and the issues in that district is real. I don't have a lot of the political background that a lot of people have when they run for these type of positions. But one of the things that I do have is the skill and the will to actually fight for you and to be your voice in Jefferson City. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Sarah Galugli, and I'm running for the Missouri House of Representatives in the 24th District. That's Emmanuel Cleaver to the river, state line to Troost. My partner and I are homeowners in South Hyde Park over near the Gillen Park Pool. And my background is in public health and community organizing. I have a bachelor's and a master's degree. And currently I work for a bi-state nonprofit healthcare provider and see every day families who are forced to choose between paying for their health care and paying their rent. I spent the last 2 years implementing the Affordable Care Act at my agency, and I believe that ultimately the power of people in our communities is greater than the people in power, and we can no longer afford to elect representatives who are protecting our failed schools and attending party fundraisers. We've got to elect folks who are going to empower our communities and engage them to demand better from their government. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Judy Morgan. I'm running for the state representative in the 24th District. I was actually elected in a special election in November of 2011, and I have really enjoyed serving the constituents of my district. There are three movements that really had a big impact on me in my early days when I was in college, and one was the Civil Rights Movement, one was the Women's Movement, and one was the Peace Movement. And what all three of these movements taught me as a young girl was that when people band together for a common purpose, they can really make a difference in the lives of others. That's why I decided to become a teacher, and then went on to become local union president, and now as state rep. I want to make a difference in the lives of other people. When I was a young teacher at Central High School, I was 22 years old when I started out. I looked like I was about 15 at the time. I had to learn very quickly to be tough and fair, and I also realized how important it was to develop relationships with your students and with your coworkers. And I think these are things that have served me well in my life and served me well in the General Assembly. I also was a local union president. I learned how to negotiate, and that's also very important. I would love to go back to Jeff Setti to continue representing Kansas City and the constituents in my district. Thank you very much.
Good evening, and thank everyone for being here. I'm Jonathan Sternberg, and I'm also a candidate for the 24th House of Representatives District. I'm also a nearly lifelong Kansas City. We moved here when I was 8 years old, and I grew up here in Kansas City, Missouri. I've lived in downtown Kansas City since 2005, where I live and work. I run a solo appellate law practice. I do civil and criminal appeals for individuals and businesses all over the country. I love helping the community. It's the first time I've run for political office myself. I'm very concerned by the attacks on our freedom from both the left and the right all over the country. Missouri is the freest state in the country, and it should remain the freest state in the country. And it's my goal, if I'm elected state representative, to guard us in our community against attacks on our freedom. Thank you very much.
Excuse me. I'm Representative Tom McDonald. Currently, I'm elected to serve the 49th District. 49th is comprised of Independence, a portion of the eastern edge of Kansas City, and Raytown, Missouri. As of now, I am a candidate running for the 28th District. That is all encompassing inside of Raytown and Kansas City to the Interstate 71. I'm probably the senior member here. I'm 65 years old. I retired from a fairly comfortable position in Hallmark Cards at an early age and decided to take on something that I thought had a little more to me. I ran as a candidate 4 years ago, won, and have the honor of serving the state and our city for the 49th district. The issues and the focuses that are important to me are mostly social. I see us as, a struggling community, and I think that education is the biggest portion of that. We see our youth in constant turmoil. We see problems at the street level. Education, I think, is the answer to bringing ourselves back out of that, and that's why I'm at the state. Hope we can somehow educate ourselves back to stability. Thank you very much.
You. Now, when you're answering the questions, feel free to stay seated if you like. And here we go. First question. What is your legislative agenda to benefit your district, and how do you plan to achieve or accomplish your agenda in 2 years? We can start at this particular end. The microphone's closest.
Well, I think one of the most critical things to my district and the entire metropolitan area is the jobs. The jobs. I think that's probably the one most important thing to kind of lift our community up. We've talked over the last 3 years about the successful jobs in Kansas City, but the approach and the results have been unsuccessful. 3 years ago, there was a good piece of legislation in place. It was watered down and eventually defeated in the Senate. 2 years ago, we approached the jobs bill with the agreement that a special session would pass it. 2 months later, the opposing party was embroiled in a lot of controversy and never really did move that forward. This year, not a word. There was not one mention of any kind of job support within the General Assembly for this legislative session. Hopefully, we can bring that back and make it work. We need to be serious about building, keeping jobs in Kansas City. As we see it today, there are jobs walking away every day to other parts of the state or across the country. That's probably the most important focus I think we can spend our time on as a legislative body.
Yes, that was one minute, they have time.
Up to 2 minutes.
There are too many concerns. I've seen what a broken school system, a broken criminal justice system, and a broken education system have done to our community. I think one thing that I'm very concerned by is that both our businesses and our population are drowning in a sea of red tape, both at the local and the state level. There are too many regulations that the city of Kansas City and other cities around the state gets duplicate, which costs businesses twice as much to operate as it should. For example, if you have a state license to sell retail, to sell a product, why should the city be able to make it more onerous for you to have that exact same license to do so in your city? As a result, businesses aren't free, people aren't free, and jobs go down and by the wayside. Unlike unlike my colleague here, I don't believe that government can create jobs. I believe that private industry can create jobs, and government can foster private industry to do so by cutting through the red tape and decreasing the amount of regulation there is. Missouri, as I said in my opening, is the freest state in the country, at least it should be. Every 2 years, George Mason University Department of Political Science does a study as to what the freest states in the country are. We were 5th. We should be 1st. And one way to do that is by bringing up our population and cutting red tape. In terms of what else ails us, the criminal justice system is simply broken. I see that every day in my practice. Following some of the state Senate candidates who were up here earlier, and Mr. Littlejohn for sheriff, I agree that the war on drugs is the #1 problem and the #1 obstacle, especially in minority communities in Missouri and throughout the country. I would work tirelessly to end that as well, which I view as a form of unnecessary and awful regulation. Politics is the art of the possible. It's the art of compromise. I was asked what I would do to change that, and I would work with others to do so.
I agree with Representative McDonald that one of the most crucial things we need to do in the legislature is retaining and creating good-paying jobs. And that affects all of us. We all have family members, friends who have lost jobs, and it's very difficult to get along in society without a job. So I think that's crucial. And also, Representative Holzman in the earlier panel addressed the whole issue of economic border wars between Kansas and Missouri. And I think that is something that needs to be addressed legislatively that we need to take care of. I come from a very progressive district where I live, and one of the things that's very important to the constituents of my district is defending equality for all, whether it's based on women's rights. We've seen the attacks on contraception. That kind of thing has to be dealt with. We also have issues with the LGBT community in that they are not members yet of the protected class under the Missouri Human Rights Act. My constituents care about that. And then also we're facing things in the legislature like the discrimination bill that was passed, but that was vetoed by the governor, that would have made it much more difficult for people to file discrimination suits on the job. And we need to make sure, I think, that people have those rights, that they have religious and racial freedoms, and everybody's tolerant, and we have laws that protect that. So that's very important to me. Obviously, coming from an education background, it's very near and dear to me that all of our kids have access to a quality education, and so I think we continually need to move toward fully funding the foundation formula, which is not fully funded now, and that's a priority for me. And then from my labor union background, also preserving worker rights. We've seen a lot of attacks on worker rights, and I want to make sure that workers have the things in place that can help them do a good job, but also be protected from employers that do not treat them fairly. So those are my main priorities, and probably my last one would be healthcare, because I think healthcare is just so crucial to everybody that we have good healthcare for people, and so that would be another priority of mine.
Well, when I'm out talking to folks and knocking on doors, they're talking to me about healthcare, education, jobs, and civil rights. In terms of healthcare, Missouri is one of those states that put their head in the sand and said, we're not going to deal with the Affordable Care Act until the court rules. The court has ruled. We're behind. We've got to get to work. We're in the situation where either we can create an exchange under the Affordable Care Act or the federal government will, and I think Missourians would prefer to have a state-based exchange as opposed opposed to an exchange crate in DC. So that's a commitment. In terms of education, like Representative Morgan said, we're funding our schools at 86% of what we are constitutionally required to fund them. I think that's criminal. If we need to raise the cigarette tax, which is the lowest in the nation, and dedicate that towards fully funding our schools, we ought to be able to do so. In jobs in the economy, I think folks are exhausted by that border war. Like Representative Holzman was saying, we can't just have one side of that plan. We've got to both have the economic tools in Missouri from Jefferson City. We've got to also be building relationships with our delegations across the state line, which our local Kansas City delegation hasn't always done such a great job of doing lately. In terms of social justice and civil rights, folks at the door were talking to me about the voter ID bills that have been floating around lately, and how that's going to potentially disenfranchise so many voters across the state and our city. So making sure that we're standing up and fighting that, and making sure that all Kansas Cityans and all Missourians have the right to work without being fired based on their private lives. Thank you.
Now, one of the things that I've heard up to this point is, of course, the jobs. And jobs should be on the mouth of, everybody, especially in politics, but it doesn't seem that it is. Just not any job should be considered. It should be meaningful jobs, jobs that are going to pay decent wages. And one of the things that, through my life experiences, I thought that could be or is a very critical pillar in our community, and that's small business ownership. Randy and Eric both said that they are small business owners, and you're a small business owner too. You're a small business owner too. So if we could focus on having more small business owners in the 23rd district, I think that would go a long way in job creation, because not only will you be creating jobs in the 23rd district by empowering small business owners, but you will be empowering the people who actually work for those small business owners. I was inspired, I would say, by the work that I did when I was younger for a guy who worked next door as a mechanic to my aunt. My basketball would bounce over his fence, and he would make me grab a tool for, not keeping my basketball. I keep my 5/8 or a 9/16 wrench or something like that. And it inspired me because of the simple fact that I knew that Buster woke up every morning and that he was in charge of his own paycheck. So when you have more men like that, or more individuals in our community who take on the responsibility of being their own employers and take the initiative to hire individuals from that community, those jobs are meaningful, and those small business owners are meaningful, and that, I think that goes a long way with jobs creation.
Thank you very much. Again, Randy Dunn. I think we have a number of really major issues that are impacting our community. One of the major issues is the issues of jobs. The unemployment rate in Kansas City as a whole is approximately 8.5%. The unemployment rate overall for the 23rd district is approximately 20%. But the unemployment rate for African Americans in the 23rd district is more than 3 times that. And that is a travesty. And that is one of the biggest reasons why we have a lot of the other issues that are impacting our community. And so one of the things I think that we need to do, and that I will do as the next state representative for the 23rd district, is to work to support the businesses that we do have in the district already, to make sure that they have the resources to sustain themselves and the resources to be able to grow. I will also provide resources to entrepreneurs and those folks that are looking to go into business. I think one of the most rewarding things a person can do is to be able to own their own business. That is one of the best ways to grow wealth in our community. And so those are some of the things that I want to be able to focus on. In addition to addressing the issues of education, the 23rd district is solely located within the boundaries of the Kansas City, Missouri School District. And I think we all know the issues that are going on there. And that's having a really, really tragic impact on the lives of our young people and the overall ability for our community to grow and to prosper as it should. Thank you.
Being a student of history, I tend to come from a historical perspective, and I was intrigued by the fact that in 1847, the Missouri legislature had passed a law that said it was illegal to teach blacks, slave or free, how to read. Now, today, the Kansas City, Missouri School District has like a 50% graduation rate. Today, we have more people, more African Americans and Latinos in the penitentiary system now, 43 years after the Civil Rights Movement, than we did before. So that is an issue that I'm gravely concerned with. Mass incarceration is the new Jim Crow, as Michelle Alexander says. Also, during our heyday, during the ancient divine era, we were entrepreneurs, and we need to create an environment where we understand that, and we teach our young people that in today's world, you have to be able to make a way out of no way. So I would encourage entrepreneurs. I would also protect the rights of our seniors so they can navigate through the healthcare system and understand their rights and entitlements. And more importantly, I would restore the rights of convicted felons, so I would work with Democrats and Republicans to collaborate to restore the rights of convicted felons and to keep them from being recycled back into the prison system. The prison system should rehabilitate and not recycle. So those are some of the things that I would work in conjunction with Republicans and Democrats in order to get those things accomplished.
I like to stand over and talk. For one, I'm running for the 22nd district. My opponent's not here, so don't think I'm talking about anybody on this panel. When we talk about politics, a lot of people come here and talk. When you ask me what is my political agenda for next session, it'll be the same agenda I had this session. I had a lot of bills around the criminal justice system and getting people to re-enter into society. Because this is one of the first barriers that we have in the city, and it touches on everything. Because somebody's not educated, somebody doesn't have a job, we don't have economic development, and we have an area that's ripe for crime. And I'm talking fast because I have a lot to get out. No politician can create a job. That's not what we can do. You can't elect me and I guarantee 100 jobs. But what we can do is create a climate in which jobs can flourish. We can create a climate in which we can have economic development. That's what we haven't had in the district that I represent or Eastern Troops. That's one of the reasons why we have a high crime rate over here. That's one of the reasons why we have an educational system that's failing the students over here. Because it's twofold. One is lack of participation, community participation. It's one thing to sit back and complain. It's another thing to actually get dirty and get involved, and we don't do that. Same when we talk about not the educational system, the criminal justice system, some of the bias laws that we have. This is all things that we can change. If you look on the back of the card, you'll see a list of the bills that I worked on this year. And the follow-up question was, how would I engage the community? I believe in doing town hall meetings. Since I was elected in January, town hall meetings every 3 months. I also have a newsletter that I put out weekly. Every Thursday, you should get the newsletter to update. Because I believe in keeping people informed. Because if you don't know what's going on, I can't expect you to get angry or get involved with anything. And the other thing I plan on doing is a lot of community engagement events. I haven't had a chance to get community engagement events like I wanted to. Just to give you a track record, I have a group called Voices of the People that we do community, unity in the community every summer. I'll see you soon.
Hang on to the microphone, though. It's going to, I think the easiest thing is probably just to pass it back and forth instead of trying to rotate. So, unfortunately, that means those of you in the middle are going to be in the middle. So I apologize for that. I think all of you mentioned the importance of education in terms of your legislative agenda and also in terms of forming who you are. A number of proposals have been discussed to address the Kansas City, Missouri School District regaining their state accreditation. What's your view on the proposals that have been floated so far? And do you have an alternative proposal?
Yeah, I really don't like the proposal that's been floated so far. I do have an ideal one that I was talking about last year to some of the people that was running some of the school board meetings, but they was trying to engage the community. I would like to see a co-op. Obviously, the SAB, which is the state elected board, they want to get involved. But I don't want to lose the elected board for the citizens, because this is the only thing that gives the citizens voice down. So I'd like to have an elected board. I'd like to change the power of the elected board, because if we look at St. Louis, we see the SAB in St. Louis does a good job when it comes to administration, does a terrible job when it comes to interacting with the kids in the city. Because I believe in observation and participation. If you don't participate or observe in that area, you'll be lost. So what I would like to do is have an elected board that job is to engage the parents, to bring people down to the school board meetings, and to keep the community informed on what's going on. The SAB, obviously, they would do administrative work for however many years we have to have them down here. And we have the city council, and we have the mayor. The mayor said that he wanted to get involved. If the mayor truly wants to get involved, let's get him involved with the boundaries of the charter. The charter says they can put money in certain areas. So why don't we dedicate resources, like when we talk about our capital improvements and sidewalks and lights, the areas around these schools, because schools is pivotal to community development. And when we talk about economic development, you're not going to have any major companies come into an area if we have no school system. If we have no school system, there's no reason to move into an area that's non-viable. The east side of Kansas City is pretty much non-viable because we're missing the basic amenities to have a viable community. Not the extra stuff that you want to have a community in which you can have fun, but just have a viable, functioning community. Schools, community centers, basic infrastructure that we pay our tax dollars to. And then when we look at the state, there's certain facilities around here that aren't even up to date on their codes. I just left a facility that had no wheelchair access. That's a problem.
I sincerely believe that it is the responsibility of the community as a whole to ensure that our young people have a quality education. I believe that parents should have a choice, be it through charter schools or public schools. And I believe that everyone should have access to these schools. So ultimately, I believe that it's our responsibility. We can do things here on our own as neighborhood associations. We can develop book clubs. We can encourage literacy in any way possible, but I think that it is imperative and it should be our first priority. So I'm in favor of local control of the Kansas City, Missouri School District, but it must be competent.
I think this is a really important question. Schools are the heartbeat of our community, and when the heart stops beating, a person dies. And our communities are dying because the schools are not working as they're supposed to. We have a number of issues that we need to address. First of all, looking at the structure of the school board. I think we need to look at who can serve on the school board. We need qualified people who understand education through and through to serve on our school boards. I also believe that we should continue to have local control over the school board. I believe that nobody knows local issues like local people. And so we need to make sure that we are able to retain that here locally for our citizens in Kansas City so they can have a direct line to what's happening in the schools here. I also believe that we need to look at curriculum reform. I can speak personally for myself, having attended both the Kansas City and the Raytown School District. I distinctly remember my very first day in the Raytown School District. We had a math quiz, and the things that were on that math quiz were the same things that we were learning in what was considered the gifted classes in the Kansas City School District. And I knew then, even as a fourth grader, had I not had that advantage, I would have been behind from day one. Our students have the same ability to learn as any other students in any other district. And so we need to make sure that we are challenging them to live up to their full potential and to grow and learn at their full capability. Thank you.
In my opinion, the local control is a no-brainer. I was down in Jefferson City one time through this campaign, and I actually saw a representative arguing with another representative about the prevailing wage law. And of course, if you understand anything about Missouri politics and you understand how the Republicans control the legislative branch, then you really understand how concerned certain individuals are about urban areas. But anyway, my experience in school, when I acted up in school, the teacher actually whooped my butt. Miss Baker, I was at the NAACP meeting probably a couple months ago, and I shared that with members there. Miss Baker whooped my butt. I went home, my mother whooped my butt, then my grandmother whooped my butt. And also the next door neighbor who I tossed papers for, she would have whooped my butt, but she knows the history of my mother and my grandmother, so she had sympathy on me that time. And she told me that she would be the first one to whoop my butt the next time I acted up in school. And I share that story again because it showed accountability on all levels. The teacher was not only willing to correct me, as far as the school goes, as far as sending me to ISS, OSS, anything like that. No, she cared even more than that to whoop my butt and tell my parents that she whooped my butt, So when you have that level of accountability in the schools and that level of accountability in the neighborhoods, then the school systems will work. So local control is a no-brainer. But if we're not doing the things to empower the families and make the families more involved in the education of the children, then we're really not going anywhere. And I say that because if you look at the issue of like the Head Start program being eliminated from the state budget, now you have a situation where a kid is not being able to take advantage of the Head Start program and get a jump on his education, and now the mother, she has to question, or she has to make a decision about where is her child going to go when she has to go to work. So if you continue to have situations like that, where a mother or individual has to make a decision about where their kid will stay at during the day while they go to work, then you're not going to get anywhere in the school system in regards of what type of accreditation you may have or what type of superintendent or board members you may have. So empowering the family and empowering the community organizations is my opinion of how you fix the school.
So there is only a limited number of things that ultimately Jefferson City can do about Kansas City, Missouri schools. The Jefferson City legislature is not all powerful when it comes to Kansas City schools, so we really need to be realistic about what the legislature can do. I support local control. The complete state takeover on the other side of the state has not been particularly successful, but ultimately local control has not been particularly successful lately either. Or lately it's improved, but over the years it's not been successful. So I agree that we're looking probably at a hybrid system that's going to be some state, some local control, and I think that that's probably the direction that we need to go for now. Funding is obviously an issue. That is something that the state controls. Again, we're at that 86%. We're also cutting funding to higher education teacher training programs. How are we going to have good, high-quality teachers in Kansas City schools if they can't get good, high-quality education at UMKC or Rockhurst or their teacher training programs? I am deeply concerned about this 2-year gap between disaccreditation and then what happens next. I know that there's a lot of steps to line up in that what happens next, but let's have thought about that beforehand. 2 years is the difference between a child being literate or illiterate. We've got 2 years of high school seniors who are graduating with diplomas from an unaccredited school district. If they're choosing to go on to a 4-year school, there's hurdles to jump through, hoops to jump through when you have an unaccredited diploma. And a lot of these students already have hoops to jump through and hurdles to overcome. So I think we've got to reevaluate that 2-year gap in the future. If we're going to unaccredit a school district, I think that there should be a plan in action pretty quickly to get that school back to accreditation and not have that gap.
I want to go ahead and tell just a little story about a student of mine when I was a high school counselor at Northeast High School. And her name was Edith. And Edith was a very smart girl. And one day the kids came to me and they were really worried about Edith. And they said, "Mrs. Morgan, you've got to talk to her. We don't know what's wrong with Edith." And I brought her in. I went and found her and brought her to my office in the counseling center. And it took me a long time to get her to talk to me too. And finally, she shared with me that she was not going to go home anymore to her family. That both of her parents were alcoholics. They were not providing food for the family. And she was just simply never going to go home again. So we did work it out. She had a wonderful older cousin who took her in. We called the child abuse hotline. And Edith asked me to go with her to pick up her clothes. Now, I'm the one that actually hotlined it, so I'm going to the home of the family, where I hotlined mom and dad. I go in, and it was just very depressing. I don't think her parents were bad people, but they were definitely both alcoholics. They were sitting there kind of in a stupor, and they obviously were not taking care of their kids. Later on, I asked Edith, I said, "Edith, how is it that you turned out okay, despite all of this?" She said, "Mrs. Morgan, I had a teacher when I was in 4th grade who really took an interest in me and said, 'Edith, we know that you can be successful. We know you're a smart girl.'" And that's what all of our kids need. And I don't think that's not necessarily something we can legislate, but all of our kids need somebody in their lives who really cares about them. So that's one thing, and we're going to need the community to help us with that. So I think the community and the educators working together is what will improve our school district and will improve the education of our kids. I agree with some of the other speakers about the empowerment of the community. I think that's a very good thing. And I also believe in local control because I think it is best that people democratically be allowed to elect the representatives who make the decisions about their schools.
I'm going to restate the question quickly since we've had another candidate join us. The question is, how do you feel about the various proposals that have been floated about getting the Kansas City, Missouri School District re-accredited, and what would be your plan if you don't like any of the plans currently in existence?
In the 24th district, which as Sarah mentioned earlier, is the river to Cleaver, state line to Troost, we've felt the downfall of Kansas City School District has been as bad as anyone. We have no schools. There isn't a single school in the 24th district anymore. There's a charter school opening up downtown next year, but when Westport High and Westport Middle closed the other year, there simply are no schools in the entire district, and that is deplorable. Now, I think when talking about how to fix this, when you have any problem as grave as the Kansas City School District's problem, you first have to understand the causes for this, and the causes are manifold. And I think all the speakers have at one point or another touched on this. The causes are social. That is, there's a lack of economic development in the community that the Kansas City School District serves. There is a terrible crime problem that sucks away talented young people to a life that they otherwise shouldn't be leading. At the same time, there's a funding issue. As Sarah mentioned earlier, there isn't adequate funding, not even under the state constitution, and that too is deplorable. If any, I talked before about freedom from regulation and freedom from government oppression, but one thing I really do believe government has an incredible role in spending money on is a centralized, good, well-funded education system. I didn't mention it earlier, I'm the Republican candidate in this race, and unlike a lot of other Republicans that I'm sure you've heard about, I do not believe that we should have private competition in schools and vouchers and things like that. That's never worked anywhere. There are certain services that have to be state-funded, locally funded, and locally controlled in a governmental, centralized fashion. Education is one of them. We need more money from the state for our schools. Teachers need to be paid more money to attract more talented people there. And we have to fix the criminal justice system and the crime issues that lead to the lack of economic development in the school areas.
Are you sure I'm sorry, I'm late. I'm Bonnie Mills from the 27th District, and I'm a candidate for that seat. I'm saying, are you sure you want me to have this microphone at this point? Because when we talk about our schools, it's nice to be on everything, and you can beat it and be so negative. But then let's look at the upswing. I come from South Kansas City, and I'm in the East Middle School District. At the present time, I'm a school board member. I've served for 13 years there and 4 years as their president. We, like any place else, we have crime, we have problems, and we have problems in our schools. But then on the other hand, we have to take pride in what it is we do. We were on the downswing likewise, and it took us some time to build it back up. What we did was we put ownership back into our families, ownership back into our kids and into our schools. And even when we had to cut and freeze the salaries for our teachers, it was about what was important. It was our kids. And so in the meantime, in making sure that our kids was important, we had to merge our high schools because we couldn't afford it. We merged our middle schools because we could not afford it. And in the same breath, we still was able to come out, keep our accreditations. And it didn't happen overnight. It took us years to get that done. And we are now sitting where we're stable, according to what Desi says at this point. Again, for the Kansas City School District, I have not looked at any of the proposals they have. What I have proposed to them is to look at the accountability plan that we put on the mark that Desi said they would like to pilot in other areas. It don't happen overnight. It's taken us 5 years, and we took baby steps to make those changes. Now, in this area, you have people that are proud of who they are, what they are, and their schools. And they want the best for their children down here just like anybody else. And I come, and I visit, and I give my input on the things that's needed here. One, they closed too many schools too fast. That's the first thing I said. You took away from the home area. But in the same breath, you can't blame everything on crime. Because at this point, crime is everywhere. The budget is cut. What we have to get back to make our government understand is kids come first. Education should be first. When you're cutting everything else, give back. Thank you.
Regarding our school system, I think there's fundamental protections that we need to absolutely assure ourselves are in place. The governor's philosophy and longstanding commitment to keeping funding for education public. There's no middle ground on this. Protect the cost of education in the state. No evading funding in any form or way. About our teachers, a hands-off philosophy over teacher tenure and the performance-based pay until we have a legitimate performance measuring system to put teachers up against. I think there's been a lot of talk about performance-based pay for teachers with no measuring stick to accomplish that. So first things first, let's design and develop, if we can, an adequate measuring stick that they can use all across the board, every last measure of our educational system, and then talk about the teachers and how they're paid against that measuring stick. Regarding our Kansas City schools, obviously we're all aware that there's a problem. Local control is very important. How are we going to repair it? We're going to have to tear it down to its absolute bedrock base and rebuild it. I think that one of the solutions that's in place is a relatively good one. It's going to be, as everyone knows, cut into separate pieces. And the surrounding communities take over control of that. I think that's fine for the interim. Go back to the school board, build it from bedrock, build it on pure transparency. It has to be transparent. Put everything back in place, live out the interim until it's time to reaccredit and make it all work good. Back to local control. Keep it going.
I want to start this question out with the candidates from the 23rd. And when I did my introduction to the forum earlier, I made a point to remind everybody of the serious personal undertaking that running for public office is. The commitment that it requires and that it calls for, and call for everyone to have, of course, a great deal of regard and respect for every candidate. And there's a question here that I'm not going to try to be negative here at all, but I think the question is insightful, okay? There are people running that are running for the first time. There are people running, a number of candidates in some of the districts. The question says, if you're going to lose, what are you going to do then? Will you give up, or are you going to continue to work to save this city?
You know what? That's an excellent question. I like that question. And it's a question I think I just got through answering, well, maybe if not earlier today, but I have answered that question throughout this campaign. And one of the things that I was doing before I decided to run was make sure I took care of my family first, then make sure I took care of my community second, and then whatever else, I guess the trickle down effect, as far as my energies and my time. But through this campaign, I realized something about myself, and I realized something about my city, and about my state, my country. And the thing that I realized is that we need more individuals like myself. Of course, I'm black, I'm a male, and I am running for office in that district. And I say that because when I look at that district, and when I look at the condition of that district, one of the biggest issues that we have in that district is the lack of a presence of African American black males who want to be responsible and who want to be accountable on all levels of society. And I am one of those individuals who want to be accountable on all levels of society. I want to be accountable to my family. I want to be accountable to my city, my neighborhood, and the state, and the country. And this, this race doesn't necessarily end that role that I will take on in the future, you know, in regards if I win or lose. I'm very excited about, you know, this race, and I'm even more excited about, you know, even if I lose, you know, because I'm not the most politically correct person, and sometimes I don't like being politically correct, because I think that when you're always politically correct, then people have the tendency to say things, or they can try to slide things in that they wouldn't necessarily slide in or even attempt if they knew that this person wasn't going to take anything like that. So with that being said, my career as a social advocate has now begun.
Thank you, Mr. Finley. And I think this is a very easy question for me to answer. I will remain active in the community. That is what I've done, that is what I do, and that is what I will continue to do. One of the main reasons that I decided to run for office is because I love this community and I love helping people. And at the end of the day, that is what public service is all about, is about helping people. So whatever I do, I want to be able to continue to help people and help my community to grow. Again, I've been very active and involved in my community throughout my years. I am a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. We have a number of programs that we provide through the fraternity. I'm also serve on the advisory board for Engage KC, which is the city's former youth commission, which is a great opportunity for young people to be able to get involved and understand how the city operates in different programs in the city. I also serve on the board of directors for the Kansas City Youth Court, and this is an important organization as well, because it is the opportunity for young persons who may have committed offenses to not have to go into the juvenile system. And also what we consider the judges and the lawyers on the youth court are also young persons, so they get to understand and see how the legal system works. I also serve on the Greater Kansas City Food Policy Coalition. The 23rd district is located within what we consider a food desert. There is a lack of quality grocery stores, fresh fruit, and all those sort of things that provide and create a healthy community. And I serve on that committee, and I'm excited to announce that we will be having a full-scale healthy grocery store that will be coming at 27 and Truth, right in the heart of the community. And those are the kind of things that we need, and those are the kind of things that I want to continue to do for my community.
Well, I will continue to do as I've always done since I graduated from Central Missouri State. I came back and I taught school at Genesis School, as I said, which was the school for at-risk youth. Then I worked at the Full Employment Council to work for the work population. Since then, I've tutored and I've mentored on an ongoing basis. I've written proposals and created ways to educate people on my own. So that is something that I will continue to do even if I was to lose this seat. Here recently, I formed a partnership with Community United to start a literacy program right there on 29th and Bales. I'm sorry, Askew. But those are the things that I will continue to do, is to work firsthand with, as far as raising the quality of education for our young people and improving their quality of life for old and young. But I will continue to work in the community as I've always done.
Before I got elected in January, Voices of the People did free political and legal classes. After being elected, we still do free political and legal classes. Before being elected, we saw the Bible Block 38 Chestnut, which we was trying to put in the Reading Resource Center, a community board, and a community market. Since being elected, we got one of the houses, which will be the Reading Resource Center, working with Great Ranch to get the city. Directly across the street, we have the community board there. We put 12 to 13 raised beds in there. Before being elected, I used to take people down to file police complaints, starting when I was 19. Since being elected, I still do that, and I do more because I was less like the story I told you about going down to housing department. I asked the lady from the housing department for a card. I'm in a t-shirt and shorts. Y'all know me, this is how I typically dress. She looked at me with disdain and wasn't going to give me the card until I put out the state record. Once I put out that card, she immediately gave me the card. Her expression changed. And I said all that to say this. We have to start putting an emphasis on people not treating us less and treating us like average citizens. The only way we can do that is to get in positions of power and open up the door. That's what your elected representative should do, not your elected leader. Because we're not elected leaders, we're elected people that's going to represent you. They haven't put in work in the community before. I'm talking about hands-on work. And this is somebody I'll be questioning. Because I see all ends of it. I see people that come in office that talk about what they're going to do, which have no interest in doing it all. Then I see good people that will go 110% beyond the boundaries. And a lot of these people don't get elected because they don't have political friends. So,
well, I think if I don't win my election, well, I know if I don't win my election, I'm going to keep doing the same thing that I do every day. Our agency provides high-quality, affordable health care to 40,000 low-income Kansans and Missourians every year. My job is to make sure that we're talking to our supporters, that we're talking to our elected officials, that we're crafting policy, that we're implementing new laws in a way that allows us to continue the privilege of providing that health care. So I'm going to continue doing that work. But I'm also going to continue to pursue running for office. In community organizing, lesson number one, or rule number one is show up. Rule number two is keep showing up. So I'm going to keep showing up. I'm going to keep building my relationships and doing the work that I do every day, and we'll continue to pursue serving my community through elected office.
I think I have a proven record in terms of service to community. I served my students for 29 years, and then the teachers and school employees as local union president for 10 years. And then when I retired, I got involved in a number of different organizations, like the Missouri Association for Social Welfare, Habitat for Humanity, to help other people. Also, I've spent a lot of time working for other good candidates to get elected. I love doing that, and if I happen not to win the election, I will definitely keep working for other good candidates who will make good laws and good decisions for us. And that will be something I will continue doing. It's just part of me, and it'll go on.
As I said before, I'm a small businessman, so actually having to spend 6 months, 5 months in Jeff City 4 days a week would be a hardship. So I'm willing to take on a hardship that even could lessen the amount of business I have. I've always been involved in my community and active in community affairs. I was the first Jackson County Republican committeeman for downtown Kansas City about 30 years, starting when I moved down there. I've been doing that for a while. Then they put me on the state Republican committee, and I've done that for a while as well, caught the political bug a little more. And I can guarantee, same as some of the other people on the panel have said, if I lose this election, I'm sure you'll see me again running for public office. Beyond politics, though, I'm heavily active in the Kansas City Metropolitan Bar Association and Missouri Bar. I give a lot of free seminars on ethics and procedure and other things for lawyers to help them be better lawyers, and I don't get paid to do that. I also occasionally work for the Kansas City Community Kitchen, and just so I can see all the various types of life that we have, and I'll continue to do that regardless of whether I get elected or not, but I suspect you'll see me running again as well.
I'm going to say my life has been a public servant, and what you see is what you get. I have been active, and I'll let my record stand for me, so I'll just give you a little bit. I started as an election judge, and I see one of my mentors here in the room that I'm very proud to stand and hope that I keep him very proud of the things that I've done. I have taken on a very large commitment, and most of my commitment has been about people. And in the midst of the people, I have also had people who help raise my children so I can continue to come out and be the voice and stand up for the people that we need to represent. I started in forensic services on criminal cases, so I've learned how to work between all of the factions that have happened in Kansas City. I worked from here to the Arkansas border. I've also served as a Jackson County Democratic Committee woman for 28 years and as the vice chair for 6. I also, at this point, I serve as the Property Maintenance Appeals Board, and I know a few of you know what that is, but I take no prisoners when it comes to our community. That court was appeals to cases of vacant houses, trash in the street. So you have to learn about the areas, the community, and I not only sit and read it, I go to those areas, I go to those communities, and I want to see what it is that I'm going to make a decision about. I also help with senior citizens. So the list goes on. So what I want to say to you, to be a public servant, you have to be out there in the trenches. You need to know what your people are thinking. You need to listen to what they have to say to you. And then action speaks louder than words. So you make it your point, if you're going to be a voice for the people, to take their vote and their concerns. It's not about you. You take yourself out of the middle of it. And when you represent your people, that's what you stand for, is what they say to you. And a couple of issues that you all have seen is the redistricting. It wasn't about me, but it was what my constituents want to stand on and what they believe in, and that's what I still represented. So whether I lose the race or win the race, I will still continue to be what I've always been, a public servant to the people, for the people, and by the people.
Well, about social involvement, looking down the table, there's not one person up here who doesn't have a social soul that has been with them all of their life. It's really a lifelong dream and commitment to be involved in the development of your community and its politics. So no one here woke up one morning and said, gee, I think I'll run for public office. It's taken years to develop my commitments all across the board. And you can see all of them have done a great job and have spent a large number of years in their life getting to the point that they're at. There's a lot of investment in that commitment. It's knowing that your life is going to be a book. You're going to be up for a lot of criticism and scrutiny by all people who look at you. So it's not something that just comes along and happens overnight. It is a decision that develops over a number of years, and the need to really do something that you feel is important. I spent a lot of number of life. I've lived in Kansas City for 25 years. Prior to that, I lived in Iowa, and I had involvement in state politics to a pretty extensive degree in the state of Iowa. When I moved here, I thought I'm going to put all that aside and focus on a professional career. But I can tell you, that doesn't lie dormant, or it doesn't just go away. It may lie dormant, but eventually it creeps back into your life. And you need to get involved, you need to make a difference in your community, in your life, environment. I think it's there all the life. I don't think it's something that any of these people just, like I said, woke up one morning and say, well, what am I going to do today? I'm running for public office. That's not the case. It takes a certain personality, and you see every one of these people with similar personalities. It's not something that's going to be here today, and if they lose, gone tomorrow. It's a need to be involved.
We have a very interesting and talented and diverse group of candidates up here, and I think when you, those of you who are successful, find yourselves in Jefferson City, you're going to find that it's perhaps not the same group of people that you're sitting with this evening. So one of my questions is, how will you work across the aisle, regardless of which side of it you're going to be sitting on, to make sure that you are effective in representing your district and the Kansas City area?
Go back. Well, if I'm elected this time, I'll be starting my third term. My fifth year will be coming up. And there's one hard, fast rule about making things work. I think the only way you can do it is put aside hard partisanship, which a lot of people, unfortunately, due to term limits, adhere to. They hide behind that partisan line. The ability to develop friendships all across the board, I think is the only way that a person can expect to kind of erase away or at least turn it to a gray line rather than a hard black line. Terminus just really fostered that hard partisanship politics. Without personal friendships, it's always going to be there. There are a lot of good people, regardless of their political philosophies. I mean, you'll find people are really genuine, just people, and even though their ideas differ a little bit, they're normal, social, want to get along individuals who you can develop friendships with. You don't have to argue about everything. You know, it's we can agree to disagree and still be friends. I think that is really key to making it all work. People learn to not hide behind that hard partisan line.
One is communication, learning how to reach out and be team members. Can you hear me? One is being team members. And I think the majority of you that I do know, and there's a few that I don't know, but it's all about being associated with what your focus is. What is your common goal? And reaching that goal is working with one another. And it's not about who is a Democrat, who is a Republican, or getting the job done. So if you reach across the line and you work with somebody, it's putting what comes first. What is most important to us? The people. So what are we supposed to do? Serve the people. So that's where I say that working with a little bit of everybody, I've done that for years, thank you, Judy. And we're looking at 2 union women here, and we not always agree on everything, but you have to do it with a level of respect. And respect is the key to whatever it is that you want to get done. Remember what your focus is.
Well, I said earlier that politics is the art of the possible, the art of compromise, as everybody else has pointed out. And there are, however, core principles that everyone must stick to. Obviously, everything can be compromised. There are gray areas in every question, regardless of party. But of course, at the same time, if you have a goal in mind for what you want for your community, you can't shirk that goal and compromise the goal away. Now, as I said earlier, I'm one Republican candidate that's up here. The Republicans are in the majority in both the House and the Senate, or more narrowly in the Senate. And that's probably going to continue for a little while, but as you can probably tell, I'm not your typical Republican. I don't hold a lot of the hard, unreasonable social views that a lot of Republicans have. So in that vein, my whole life I've been able to get along well with both Democrats and Republicans. I can tell Republicans when they're being unreasonable, and I can compromise with Democrats. And I certainly continue to be able to do that if elected state representative.
I think what I can do personally is to continue to work with a group called the Kansas City Caucus. My predecessor, Jane Peters Baker, who is now the prosecutor, was very instrumental in getting this group together. And what it is it's a group of Republicans and Democrats from the Kansas City area that have begun meeting on a regular basis and trying to work together for those things that they think are good for Kansas City. I was really excited when I got invited to the first meeting when I went down to the legislative session in January, and I continued to be part of that group, Kansas City Caucus. And I really think it is how we got the Land Bank Agency bill passed. This is a bill that will allow the city of Kansas City to set up a board that can go in and actually buy and fix up properties that are no longer, nobody's living in them, or vacant properties. And we got this passed in just 2 years, which is pretty unusual for that to happen, for any bill to get passed in just 2 years. Usually it takes 4 or 5 years once a bill is instituted. I believe that the reason we were able to get that bill passed in 2 years was because of this Kansas City Caucus. It's a great group of people, and like I say, we sit down and talk and try to work together on those things that are good for Kansas City, and we've been able to get that piece of legislation passed, and I think we can do other things by keeping that alive.
One of my mentors told me one time that it's hard to hate up close. I think that we need to be doing more of that work where we're building relationships. There will always be the places where we are ideologically very far apart. But there will be the occasions when we can be up close with one another and find some common agreements. I think that there's some bills floating out there in Jefferson City that we should be moving on so we can do that up close relationship building. from angel investment tax credits to the midwifery licensing bill to the urban agriculture pieces. Those are very different issues, but sometimes we're so far to the left and they're so far to the right that we can meet on the backside and do some of that relationship building, and I think ultimately that's where we need to be focusing some of those efforts in Jeff City.
I'm a believer in universal principles, so, trying to say that there's two separate aisles, keep one side on one side and the other side on the other side is, in my opinion, very ridiculous. And with that being said, I heard somebody gave me a good quote from William Clay Lacy, and it was that there's no permanent enemies or no permanent friends. There's only permanent interests. So I believe in that statement, and I believe we stick to it.
Thank you. When it comes to politics, I think it's important for us to look beyond Republican and Democrat and look at who it is that we are serving and the issues that we are there to take care of. And so for me, it's a matter of looking at, again, how we can build those relationships with the other legislators to be able to get things done and make a positive impact on our community. As Representative Morgan spoke of earlier, House Bill 1659, which is the Land Bank bill, I'm happy to have had an opportunity to be a piece of that. As a city planner at Kansas City, I'm the only city planner that is African American. And so every day when I go there into City Hall, I have to carry that with me, that I'm looking at the interests of all of Kansas City, but specifically for those persons of color. And House Bill 1659 is an important bill, and through the Heart of the City Area Plan, for which I was project manager, we got that to be our #1 priority coming out of that plan. We spearheaded the City Council to include that as one of their legislative priorities to the state, which again allowed us to be able to partner with the Republicans and Democrats in the legislature to get that passed. And that bill is important because it will allow for an opportunity for us to proactively go out and acquire vacant lots. There's over 12,000 vacant lots in Kansas City. And this bill will allow us to proactively go out there and acquire those so that way we can assemble them in a way that we can create economic development in our community that is reflective of our needs and our desires.
I have the ability to create relationships and friendships for the purpose at hand. So I don't see myself having a problem getting anything done because I am able to do just that. So I'm looking forward to working with Republicans. I'm looking forward to finding commonalities and focusing on that. And those that we can't agree upon, we just don't agree upon. But one thing, there are some things that we can agree upon, so I don't have any problems with it. And I will be successful in doing that, so, because I have a proven track record of that.
To be simple and plain, I don't care about party. I'm issue based. This year I said the same thing to the Democratic caucus and the same to the Republican caucus. As long as the issue is something that I agree with, then I may be able to compromise. If it's something that I can't get along with, I'll represent additional. Since everybody's talking about the land bank bill, I'm the only person from Kansas City that voted no against the land bank bill. It's not that the concept is bad. When I look at government agencies, I talk about government agencies purchasing acquiring land in impoverished areas, low-income areas. I typically see the people in that area get victimized. When I look at 27th and luxury living on Brooklyn, I see people get victimized, people get priced out of their neighborhoods. When I look at the Citadel project, it's a travesty. When I look at the new houses they built up and down for sale, which was supposed to be for the residents of that area, but the houses started at 150 on up, when the average income in that area is 30,000, with 35,000 or less. So this is not for the people in that area. When we talk about the land bank, the reason I voted against it is simple as that. When I look at 27th and Prospect, where they're talking about building a new release lab, now they were talking about paying people 3 times their property value. And I say on 38th and Prospect, and I know my property value is only $10,000. 3 times my property value is $30,000. I cannot relocate anywhere. If I'm elderly, the possibility of me restarting my life is pretty much null and void. So when I look at the land bank acres, most of the houses is in my district. This is something that could be beneficial, and this is something that can be extremely harmful when we talk about purchasing land on a lower scale and not letting anybody else have access to it. The vacant houses and the lots that we got on 38th and Chestnut that I was talking about earlier, which is the Reading Center and the community garden and market that we're trying to get, we got that to land trust. The land bank is supposed to make it easier, but the government has the ability to purchase the land first. And it always makes me nervous when we talk about government purchasing areas in low-income areas.
Thank you, candidates. Now, we are going to get ready for you guys to do your 1-minute closing statement about yourself. But first, there are 2 housekeeping matters that we want to take care of. The Communities Creating Opportunities card. If everyone has that, please fill those cards out and turn them into Marianne Grayson. She will be, she's standing up with the basket. Second, the candidates, if you brought signs and literature regarding your campaign, please be sure to take your information with you. We can't leave them here at this facility. Okay, with that said, thank all of our, the audience. We're ready for the 1-minute closing statements. Thank you.
Again, my name is Brandon Ellington. I currently represent the 41st District. I'm looking to represent y'all again in the 22nd District. What I offer is true representation. I offer somebody that's going to remain accessible, somebody that's going to go to Jefferson City and articulate the concerns of individuals whose voices are hardly ever articulated. I'm not talking about just black folks. I'm talking about a social economic condition that voices aren't articulated. Obviously, I believe in changing the criminal justice system. I'm heavy on education, economic development when it's rooted with community in mind. I don't believe in just bringing companies in when it's going to displace the community. And I'm honest. I don't act like a typical politician because I believe your representative should be somebody from your area that should have the same walk experiences that you have. And I don't believe in that cookie cutter image. That's why you see me, I talk a little different, I dress different, because I believe in having somebody authentic. I believe that people deserve somebody authentic that they can talk to. We need to elect more authentic people. We have different policies.
Well, the reasons that I'm running is first of all to improve the quality of education for our young people. I've said it again, and I'll say it one more time. There's a direct connection between literacy, incarceration, and murder on the streets. We are in a state of emergency, and we need to elect people that understand this and who understand that we have more people in jail now, 43 years after the Civil Rights Movement, than we had before. Re-enslavement is taking place right before our very eyes. So we need to elect people that understand this and who have a voice in this matter and are going to ensure this is not going to happen again. Thank you.
Thank you again. My name is Randy Dunn. I'm candidate for state representative for the 23rd District. And I want to just say thank you again for this forum. Thank you to everyone who was here in attendance for being participatory in what is happening in our community. As state representative, there are 4 major issues that I want to focus on, those being employment, education, economic development, and crime and public safety. Those issues are really important to us to be able to have the type of community that we really deserve. And I also believe that we need to have representation from our community who actually live there. My opponent to the right of me does not even live in the district in which he is running in. And so I think it is important that we have people who actually live in the communities in which they are planning to represent. Thank you.
Well, I would definitely feel heartbroken. Just kind of touch on what Randy was talking about earlier. When we look in this room, we are basically preaching to the choir. I'm pretty sure the majority of the people in this room have a political knowledge that's far superior, probably even than mine. You know, so having you here is good, But unless we find ways to fill the seats with the people who are actually being disenfranchised, the people who are actually speaking about, and the people who we're actually talking about lives and affecting their lives, unless we get them in this room and have them a part of the conversation, then we are really spinning our wheels. So thank you.
I will be brief and use my time to thank the NAACP for having us all this evening. And it's also so heartening to see so many young folks. It's an honor to sit on this panel with everybody, but I think the number of young people running for office in Kansas City this year is truly a testament to the work of our parents and grandparents who got us here and asked us to be engaged. So thank you.
I too want to thank everyone who came out tonight. It's good to see so many friendly faces in the audience. And I also want to congratulate the NAACP for putting this on. It was a very good forum and an opportunity for candidates to express their viewpoints. People often ask me how I have handled my transition to the legislature. And I've said it really has been a pretty easy transition for me. And I think the reason it's been easy is because of my past experiences and leadership as a teacher and a local union president. As a teacher, I learned how to be tough and fair, and I learned how to build relationships with folks. As a local union president, I learned how to hone my negotiating skills. But you need more than just experience and leadership. I think I bring something else to the table, and those of you who know me, I think know this about me. I'm a very hard worker. I'm always well prepared for the task at hand. I think that's very crucial in the legislature, and I've been that way from my days as a student to the years I was a teacher and local union president to my time in the General Assembly. So I really would look forward to going back there and representing Kansas City and the constituents of the 24th District. Thank you very much.
I also need to thank everybody for being here. It really is great to see so many people engaged and interested in local politics and local issues. I think if only we had more of that in Kansas City, if there were 5 times as many people in this room, we'd just have a better world. Also, thank you to the NAACP for putting this on. This is actually the first thing I've been invited to as a candidate because I am a primary challenger, so I've been ignored for the most part so far. I want to go to Jeff City to make government more common sense, more reasonable for everybody. I want to help foster a free market both of ideas and for business, in which individuals and businesses can exist, creating relationships they want to among each other. In that environment, we all win. I also want to increase the common sense of government, especially in criminal justice, which has destroyed especially inner city and lower income communities. There needs to be more sense to it than simply locking young men and women up and having them come back over and over and over again. And I want to help you do that. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, NAACP, for affording me the opportunity to join this fabulous slate of candidates tonight. And I apologize to you for being late because I was at a school board meeting. I will say this, my most important pieces is education, economic development, and health care. Those 3 things are very passionate to me because it involves everyone. It's wonderful to see everyone here in the room tonight, but I believe in being out in the trenches and talking to the people that are not here, that need to know what it is that we stand and represent. Again, I'm Bonnie Mim for the 27th District. I will represent not just the 27th District, but whoever brings an issue to me, I make sure your voice is heard. Thank you for this evening.
I also would like to say thank you. It's been a wonderful opportunity. Thanks for everybody that came. It's been a very interesting year. It's a campaign year. You'll learn a lot of things as you go door to door and talk to people. The one that's most prevalent, I'm sure, for everyone at this table is how upset people are with the political environment. They don't know why. They're upset with the political environment. And my message has changed. Instead of apologizing, I'm telling them, get off the couch, get involved, do something, anything. Stop pointing the finger and expecting everybody else to pick up the slack. Make an effort. Make a difference. And over the last couple of days, the last couple of weeks, I've come to the conclusion I am done apologizing. The political environment, the situation we're in here, get involved. Do your part. Speak up. Get engaged. Help. Thank you.
Thank you,
candidates. Before we leave, I would like to ask Madam President, Ms. Anita Russell, to come forward and close us out.
Thank you. First of all, let's give all the candidates a hand again, please. Thank you all for coming out this evening and giving us the opportunity to ask questions and find out what you're all about. And then we want to thank the committee and especially our moderators for this group as well as the one before, so let's give them a hand. And now it's your turn. Let's give yourselves a hand for staying to the end. Some of you have been here since 6 o'clock. Thank you so much. And also we want to thank the Bruce R. Watkins Cultural Heritage Center for hosting us this evening. So let's give them a hand as well. And now it's, you've heard a lot this evening. You have an opportunity to meet the candidates. And I'm sure that as you're leaving, if you want to say something to them, you can do that. But we don't want to stay too long because the center usually closes at 9 o'clock. So let's talk outside. But now don't forget now, August 7th, that's a Tuesday. You need to make sure that you vote and make sure that your neighbors vote. So mention that to everybody because none of this means a thing if we don't show up. So let's all show up and show out on Tuesday, August 7th. Thank you. Oh, hold on. Yes, ma'am.
We would like to invite the candidates and also the people in the audience to become a member of the NAACP. $30 will do it. If you're on a higher payroll, $75 per year will do it. You pay it out in 10 years, it's worth $750. Join the NAACP. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rosa. And I know we have envelopes, so please. Okay, plenty of envelopes, so stop and join. And with that, good night.